What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast, and this is the Total Takedown for UFC Vegas 39. That's right, we're talking overs, we're talking unders, who's getting knocked out stiff, how long are these fights gonna last? If you want the full breakdown of the entire card, my opinion on every single fight, top to bottom from Monday's show, that link will be in the description below. Let's go ahead and talk about these fights and do our best not to pick a side. First fight of the night, lightweight battle. We've got Steve Garcia taking on Charlie Ontiveros. Total here set at 1.5. The over 1.5 is juiced minus 135. The under 1.5 you're getting plus 115. And if I'm being honest, I like the violence here in this spot. We know Charlie Ontiveros really struggles with the takedown game. We know Steve Garcia, physically strong, comes in like a bull in a china shop, tries to run through his opponent, has the ability to just body people to the floor, and he swings heavies. We know Charlie Ontiveros likes that karate sideways style. He's got good kicks, good knockout punch, blitz attacks, but he's got 7 losses, all 7 by knockout. So you can't really count on the kid's durability, and he looks like he likes to trade. He's dropping down to lightweight after making his UFC debut on short notice against Kevin Holland. He should be in the right weight class for this one. We're not sure if that helps or hurts his durability. Probably helps his power. So what we're going to see here is a train wreck between these two. I think the UFC is going to kick the night off in fashion, and I do think we end up seeing a first round finish. I'd be looking at the under at plus money here on this one if you're going to look to bet it. Second fight of the night, women's strawweight match. Lupita Gutiérrez getting a short notice replacement. Lost that Sam Hughes ticket. We've got Silviana Gomez Juarez coming in, taking that slot. And we've got a total at 2.5 for a women's MMA fight. Classic. Minus 260 to the over, plus 200 to the under. And this is a spot where there's a lot of questions. A short notice fill in. Silvia Gomez really likes to strike. She's slick on the feet. She's got good pop on her punches. She's fought some low-end regional competition, but she looks pretty slick from what we've seen on tape. Lupita Godinez, we've already broken this one down. We know what she's capable of. She's been working really hard on her striking. Very powerful. I listened to an interview with Sam Hughes, who fought Lupita twice before in her amateur career. She said that Lupita is the hardest punch she has ever taken. And with Lupita really focusing on that striking, looking to level up with some high caliber training partners, you got to wonder what she's really going to be capable of. If she turns a corner, if we see a new level for Lupita Godinez, she could be putting some people away here in this spot. So I expect a striking match. Whether or not it gets to the judges' scorecards, we would assume it probably does just based on the history of women's MMA. But if you want to take a late flyer on that under 2.5, betting on violence, looking for these two both to try to show off in this spot on the feet, I don't hate it. Featherweight fight up next. We've got Charles Rosa taking on Damon Jackson. Total set at 2.5 here. The over is minus 165. The under is plus 145, and it looks like it's taken a little bit of action on that under, which is a bit surprising if I'm being honest. Both these guys are high-level scramblers, high-level jiu-jitsu players. Damon Jackson probably has a slight wrestling edge, but not a huge one at that. They both have decent, serviceable striking. Charles Rosa probably the better boxer of the two, but there's a height and reach advantage for Damon Jackson. This is one of those spots where you kind of expect the two grapplers to go to war on the ground, but more than likely they cancel each other out and they end up striking for 15 minutes. So I think this one's going over. I think it hits the judges' scorecards because I don't think either of these guys have the KO power to really get the other one out of there, and they've both shown that they can be tough, they can be durable, they can dig deep, and they can hang in the fight when they need to. So I'd be looking at the over 2.5, not planning on touching this one though from a side or total perspective personally. Heavyweight fight coming up next. We got the big boys. Jared Vanderaa is taking on King Kong Alexander Romanov. Total set at 1.5 rounds, as you'd expect for this one. Over 1.5 is plus 130, it looks like, and minus 150 to the under 1.5. They are expecting a first round finish, and quite frankly, so am I. We've seen Jared Vandera's takedown defense. It's non-existent. He gets put on the back with very little effort. We're in the small cage. He's taking on Alexander Romanov, who is basically a 2.0 version, a bigger, thicker version of Sergey Spivak. If Sergey can get you down with ease and then basically beat on you for a full round, pretty sure Alexander Romanov can as well. So what we're expecting is an early finish from Romanov. And if Romanov is not able to get Jared Vanderaa out of there, Jared Vanderaa probably has the cardio advantage, and he probably wins a decision or gets a late TKO via volume. But that's if he gets out of the first round. I'm not really expecting him to get out of the first round. He's not like a big one-punch KO type of fighter, so I don't think Alexander Romanov is going to get hurt by any of the punches that he has to offer early. So if you're betting over, you're kind of just betting on Jared Vanderaa to pull the upset. If you're betting under, you're thinking King Kong gets it done. I'm definitely on the underside. Bantamweight fight here. Chris Gutiérrez taking on Felipe Colares. A very hotly debated fight among the MMA community, making me sweat a little bit over here because I do have a parlay involved on this one. Total set at 2.5. The over is -220. The under is +180. And this is a spot where, surprisingly enough, I think you can make an argument either way. Felipe Colares has shown to be nothing but durable. This guy knows how to stay in a fight. He knows how to live and die by the sword, and more often than not, he lives. He makes it to the judges' scorecards, even when he's the one taking a beating. Chris Gutiérrez, on the flip side of this thing, same thing. He can get taken down. He can give up his back in scrambles, but more often than not, he's proven to be tough. He's proven to be durable. He knows how to stay safe, gets back to his feet, and then works his way back into the fight. He's kind of a decision machine. Gutiérrez also, though, has those nasty leg kicks, and we have seen just a couple of those change the course of the fight, open up that TKO opportunity for him, and he also has just that high pace, that high volume that cracks people. Felipe Colares, high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. On the ground, this guy can submit pretty much anybody. So we've got kind of opposing factors here. Both fighters can cause this fight to go over, and both fighters absolutely have the ability to finish in this spot. So I'm a little bit torn. I think that Chris Gutiérrez is going to struggle early with Colares, but once he gets into a groove and sets his pace, I think he picks Felipe apart over the course of 15 minutes. Maybe a late finish, but that would put us right on the line with that 2.5 rounds. So I am not touching this total from a betting perspective, but if you think it goes under, again, I really don't blame you. I'm going to ever so slightly say over, but there's no way I'm laying -220 because that third round could get hairy. Main card portion of the evening kicking us off is Phil Hawes taking on Deron Winn. Another very contested fight among the MMA community on Twitter. Total here on this one is set at 2.5 rounds. Over 2.5 looks like it's -125. The under is -110. So slightly, you know what? It's actually opposite at some other spots. It's -120 to the under and -110 to the over. So it's about a pick 'em. You can find kind of whichever side you want in the market out there. Some books leaning ever so slightly under, some books leaning ever so slightly over. And I think this is another spot where you side with a fighter, right? We hate to pick fighters on this particular show. We're looking at picking totals. But if you're looking under, you probably think Phil Hawes is the one getting it done, right? Now, Phil Hawes has shown us he can go 15 minutes in his last couple fights. So he does have the gas tank to get out there, extend the fight, stay safe, stay in it, and get further than we expected him to, because we've seen him struggle with the gas tank. We kind of expect him to fall apart at some point. He just keeps showing us that he can actually get to a 15-minute decision. But he's got that raw power. He's got that nasty, explosive power, and he's talked leading into this fight about wanting to get a knockout over Deron Winn. Deron Winn, on the flip side of this thing, has proven himself to be insanely hard to stop. Everyone feels he's undersized at this weight class, but he turns out to just be kind of a little tank in there. You can't get him out of the cage. So because of that, Deron Winn kind of forces this thing to the over. If you think Phil Hawes can crack him, you're betting under 2.5. If you think Deron Winn is going to survive and at least be in this fight later on, then you're thinking over. Both guys can win by decision. I would say both guys can win by knockout, but unless Phil Hawes completely gasses and falls to shreds, that's kind of the only way I see Deron Winn getting a late finish in this one. Don't get me wrong, it's on the table, but it's probably going to be in round 3, not in round 2, so you'd be getting pretty close on that 2.5. Personally, I took the shot. I'm siding with Deron Winn. I do think this is going to go over, and I think it's going to go to a decision. Considering Phil Hawes is capable of winning a decision, we've seen that the last couple times. I definitely would be looking more at the over 2.5 than the under 2.5 in this particular spot. Flyweight fight, Sabina Mazo taking on Mariya Agapova. Tons of questions surrounding this fight. This fight is just absolute mess from a narrative perspective here. What we've got is Sabina Mazo, somebody who I've been a little bit high on in the past. She's very tall, very long for the division, good, flowing, striking, but she can get stuck on her back. She seems to have trouble with trips. She seems to have trouble with takedowns, and especially With the wrestling, she has a problem. Her jiu-jitsu off her back, not quite that bad. She's got offensive submissions, so she can stay safe on the mat, but she definitely doesn't have much of a get-up game if she gets overpowered by somebody. Mariya Agapova, on the flip side of this thing, just hell on wheels in the first round. She comes out hard, she comes out for the kill, and we saw her in her last fight absolutely fall to shreds when she didn't get the finish early. She gave everything for that early finish, didn't get it, and gassed out, and then we saw what happened after that. She got herself finished in the second round. So we've got a 2.5 here. For women's MMA, we've got over 2.5 at minus 215. Under 2.5 is going to be about plus 165. So do we have a violence bet in this particular spot? It's a great question because Sabina Mazo, she's shown that she can pull a rabbit out of the hat with those finishes herself. She's got those head kicks, she's got the chokes, so she definitely has some finishing upside. But for the most part, she's got pillow fists. She's high volume, and she just keeps a pace on people. Whether or not that breaks them, so far, not very often. Mariya Agapova, on the flip side of this thing, she's been durable up until the point that she gets tired. So this whole fight kind of comes down to Mariya. How is she going to react to this fight? Does she come out after turning a corner, look like she's taken a jump up, a level up, higher fight IQ, maybe pace herself a little bit more and be in this fight? Because if she does, not only do I think that she has a chance to win it, I think there's an opportunity for her to get a late finish in this fight, not an early one. But if she comes out the way she did in her last fight and tries to break Mazo in the first round, there's a chance she breaks herself. And then Mazo is going to have no problem taking out a gassed Mariya Agapova. So there is more than one way this fight goes under. I think the under 2.5 actually has some merit in this particular spot. But if Mariya Agapova comes out and she is more controlled and she's calmer, all of us are going to feel really stupid with an under 2.5 ticket in our hands because of that, because we have no idea what this girl is dealing with right now. The fact that she's been kicked out of gyms for drug use and has been hopping from gym to gym to gym, I can't tell you where her head is at this point. Her interviews, she seemed calm and collected enough, but she definitely talked about wanting to get back on track financially speaking, so a bonus probably doesn't sound too bad to her. So she probably comes out guns blazing early. I can't trust her either way. I'm not betting this total. I did take a shot on Mariya Agapova on the money line, I'll be honest with you, because I think she's the right kind of crazy, and because I think Sabina Mazo has some holes, and I think Agapova is more than capable of using a speed advantage and getting it done early. So I'm going to lean under 2.5, but I don't think I want to trust the under in this particular spot just because, again, it all comes down to the mindset of Mariya Agapova. Next fight up, Tim Elliott taking on Matheus Nicolau, and we've got a total here set at 2.5. The over is minus 260. The under looks like it is plus 190. And again, this is another one of these spots where both guys contribute and take away from this total. Tim Elliott, we know he's a grinder. We know he's a solid wrestler, especially since he's been training with James Krause. This guy knows how to use that high fight IQ and just work his way to a win. On the feet, he is high volume. He likes to keep a pace, put that on people, but he's not much of a finisher. Matheus Nicolau, on the other hand, this guy's got bombs. He is low volume on the feet, but when he strikes, he hits hard. And when he's on the ground, he's always hunting those submissions. He's a strong wrestler, good positionally speaking, and offensive with those submission attempts. With Tim Elliott, you got to think he's going to force this thing to the ground at some point. He's going to be trying to get those takedowns, looking for it. I don't know if he's going to have much success in the wrestling department against a fighter like Matheus Nicolau, though. Tim Elliott, his durability is something I don't really want to get in the way of. I think Matheus Nicolau has a better chance of submitting Elliott than Elliott has of submitting Matheus, if I'm being honest. I don't see Tim Elliott as much of a finisher these days, so I think Tim forces this thing to the over. The durability of Matheus Nicolau forces this thing to the over. Matheus submission, maybe a knockout, but we've seen Elliott zombie his way right back into a fight, so I'm not counting his chin out at all here. I would be saying over 2.5, but it's a scary proposition to lay minus 250, minus 260 in this spot. Welterweight fight, Randy Brown taking on Jared Gooden, and this is going to be one heck of a fun fight here. Total set at 1.5, it looks like. Over 1.5 is minus 165. Under 1.5 looks to be about plus 130, plus 135 out there. And this is another spot where it all comes down to the game plan. Our last fight out with Jared Gooden, we saw what he can do in round one. He took out a tough, durable competitor with some big bombs. This guy can strike. He's incredibly explosive, incredibly powerful, and Randy Brown is a fast starter. We've seen this guy get clipped before. We've seen his chin get touched, and he has caved in and gone down. But you know what? He's no stranger to finishing either. This guy's got bombs in his hands. He also has incredible scrambling ability, solid submission offense. Jared Gooden on the flip side of this, though, is a BJJ Brown belt, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't think that the submission advantage for Brown is necessarily going to be there in this particular spot. I have a sneaking suspicion that this fight squeaks over. With the offensive firepower of these guys, there is no way I can bet it, though, especially at chalk. It's like betting heavyweight over 1.5 when Francis Ngannou is the main event or something like that. It probably gets there. It might get there, but I'm way too coward to put my money in that spot, especially with what we saw from Jared Gooden last time. He's going to be feeling himself. He's going to be coming out, and he's going to go for that win. He's not afraid to throw down, get his hands dirty, and we have seen the same thing from Randy Brown, especially with the way he likes to put a pace on people from the jump on these fights. This thing could turn into a firefight, and it could get there early. So I'm going to say over 1.5, but I'm not happy about it, and I'm definitely not betting it. Main event time. Women's strawweight fight. Mackenzie Dern taking on Marina Rodriguez, and what a fight this is. I've been waiting for both of these women to take that big step up into the upper echelon. They've both been just carving their way through the division, and they finally run into each other in what is potentially a #1 contender elimination match. Like, this is a fight, folks. I'm so stoked for this one. Total set at 2.5. The over looks like even money, plus 110 in some spots. The under is juiced, minus 135, minus 140 across the board is kind of where it looks to be sitting. And I got to bet violence here in this spot. I actually took the under 2.5 at minus 125 earlier in the week. I beat that line move. I'm already on the under in this spot. The reason for that is this fight is extremely binary. If Mackenzie Dern is able to get this fight to the ground, I don't expect Marina Rodriguez to be able to grapple with her. We've seen Marina Rodriguez to be defensively sound. We know she can take care of herself and stay safe on the mat, but she's also not faced anybody with the aggression, the strength, or the credentials of Mackenzie Dern on the floor. So I don't know that she's going to be as successful defending herself against this particular opponent if it does hit the mat. On the flip side of this thing, Marina Rodriguez, is miles ahead of Mackenzie Dern when it comes to the striking. Dern has made some big improvements, but she's still a bit sloppy. She leaves holes and openings in her game, and she is aggressive to a fault. So she's going to be coming forward and swinging wild, looking to land something heavy. That's exactly the type of opportunity someone like Rodriguez is going to take advantage of and then bomb on her the other direction. Rodriguez finally looks like she's starting to put it all together. She got a knockout, I think, 2 fights ago, and we've seen Mackenzie Dern busted up in some of her previous fights. This is a different level. Rodriguez hits extremely hard. So if Dern can't get the takedown, I don't think she can take 10 minutes of getting beat on the feet by Marina Rodriguez. On the flip side of this thing, if Rodriguez ends up on her back, I don't think she can grapple with Mackenzie Dern for 10 straight minutes without giving up some kind of a bad position or some kind of a submission. So I definitely think under is the side here. Hope you got in with me. Follow me on Twitter at DieHardMMAPod if you want to tail those early action tweets that I send out. I still think violence is the answer here. Violence is always the answer when it comes to MMA. And if you want to take an alternate total, the under 3.5, the under 4.5 fight doesn't go the distance. I mean, this thing might squeeze over, but I personally don't see how it goes much further beyond that point. So definitely thinking under is the way to go in the main event. That's the Total Takedown, folks. Do me a favor, hit that like button if you like the video. Make sure you pound that dislike button if you just hate my face. Share this thing out there and let me know what your favorite total to bet for UFC Vegas 39 is in the comments below. Subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already, and let's roll.